Welcome to Born or Made, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of success and identity. Are the traits that define us as leaders ingrained from birth, or are they carved out throughout our experiences? Join your host, Anne-Marie LaTulip, as we ask these questions to some of the most insightful and inspiring entrepreneurs of our time. Each episode, we explore their journeys, the decisions that shaped them, and how they've molded their own paths to success. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or simply curious about the interplay between nature and nurture in professional growth, you're in the right place. Get ready for compelling stories, transformative insights, and a new perspective on what it really takes to make it in the world of entrepreneurship.
Welcome back to the Born or Made podcast. I am your host, Anne-Marie LaTulip, and with me today, I have the wonderful Carol Register. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her before I hand it over. Carol is a certified neurocoach who brings you healing of your limiting money beliefs. That's awesome. For a wildly fulfilling, abundant life. Carol's clients attest to her power, purpose, and passion as she believes in them before they start, and she celebrates the impact that her neuroscience process brings to them to live prosperous, transformed lives. Carol, welcome.
Hi, it's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you, and I'm thrilled to hear more about what you're doing, because not only having an abundant mindset, but an abundant money mindset, which is even better. So can you tell us a little bit? I just told everybody a little bit about you, but I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of my journey includes where I am right now. I am overseas in southern Chile. I was widowed 10 years ago and
Oh,
had, my husband had dealt with mental issues, and there was a lot of verbal and psychological um, disconnect that I went through. I'm hesitant to use the word abuse, because part of what I do with the neuroscience is I really help you to rewrite your story. And when I'm in my healing and rewriting my story, then that's speaking a different truth over the past, because time is relative. We absolutely can change our past. So I found myself alone overseas with a brand new business that I didn't know, had never run before, grieving 30 years of marriage, and really just not knowing what to do. And definitely was in survival brain, especially from the trauma I had been through. It was big T trauma. And it's interesting because in those situations, we begin to get blocked. Our vision gets blocked. And I heard a podcast from my mentor, who I'm certified through. And in that podcast, she said, you can remove your limiting beliefs. And I went, you can do what? Say what? You count me in, right? Count me in. And it still took me some time. It still took me 4 months to kind of do the research, and I can be analytical, right? And figure out if, what she was saying was right. So I dived into her program and began that rewiring process. And man, I will tell you, Emery, it was so exciting. Like halfway through, 6 months into the certification program with her, like I did her original program and then I stepped up and I began to experience transformation. I see it in my colleagues that were in the certification with me. I began to see it in her clients. And that's when I was bitten by the bug. I was like, I have to share this with people. I have to let people know what's possible for them in terms of both overall healing and specifically for the work that I do around healing your limiting abundance stories, healing your limiting money beliefs. Oh.
Wow, that is incredible. And I've been hearing about the different people that I have on this podcast. It's funny, the people we attract, right? Because I've been hearing a lot about healing limiting beliefs and increasing your energy and frequency and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I'd love to know, because you specifically talk about limiting beliefs in money. So I'd love to talk for a second about how that relates to limiting beliefs just in general about maybe oneself or one's psyche.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. One of the things I do in my program is I combine neuroscience tools, and I have a 4-step success matrix process. And then I combine it with principles of wealth. And principles are immutable laws. They've been around for millennia. They're the way the 1% think and operate. And, just like the laws of physics, like they're the success clues. They're the things we can follow. So combining those two is the ability to take what gets wired in there, that self-talk we have. And my own experience with that is having a lot, being considered wealthy, and yet I was operating by scarcity. I was fearful of losing it. My vision was blocked. I wasn't making clear decisions at all. I was avoiding. I mean, I could really go on and on. These were my own experiences. And, I wanted to let people know, look, no matter where you're at on your wealth journey, and especially if you're a high achiever and you love business and you can't figure out how to break through that glass ceiling, you're like, why am I not breaking through? What's happening? There are answers. There are things that get wired into our subconscious and we're unaware of them. And by and large, they come from our childhoods, over 90%. But then, we continue to operate by them and they're not serving us. And we're like, what's happening? What's going on? Like intuitively, I knew it was me blocking me, but I didn't know that there was an actual process that I could follow that would unlock what was going on. And to your question specifically, when we go to work in any one area of our lives, we begin to elevate all areas of our lives. And that's the cool thing about what JFK said, a rising tide does raise all boats. So you think
Mm,
about the boats in the harbor and the tide comes in, they all rise.
right.
And
That
so, yeah.
is that is so cool, and probably so makes so many people listening to this hopeful. But I would love to talk about you mentioned neuroscience. So what would be, and you don't, of course, don't have to get into your whole process, but I'm just curious how that works. How is neuroscience different than maybe somebody that's going to see a psychologist or somebody that's dealing with internal beliefs?
Yeah, actually, I work alongside therapists, and some of my clients have been therapists. And so they work hand in hand really well together. Neuroscience is the study of the whole nervous system. It's not
Okay.
just the brain and the thinking. And this is important, speaking about being integrated beings, really the foundational work that I do, that I help you with, is to know who you truly are. Valuable, beautiful soul. And here's an example. This really hit home for me. We don't look at a baby in a crib. We don't even look at a puppy or a kitten and go, you're not valuable yet. You're not doing anything, right? We inherently know that we arrived on this planet when we look at a baby, that they're valuable. They're a valuable human being, and it's not based on what we're doing. It's who we are foundationally at the core. So this really goes to the root of the work that I do, because when you have that foundation of your worthiness, your enoughness, your true valuable identity, then you can build everything else. You can start to rewrite the past. You can start to rewrite old generational patterns and break those, as well as create the present and the future that you truly want to live.
Mhm. I love that. And you mentioned trauma, and earlier you said big T, big trauma.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that for a minute because trauma, somebody might think, oh, well, my trauma isn't that big of a deal. It's not really trauma compared to somebody else that might have gone through something worse. So talk
Yeah.
about big T. Is that sort of grading trauma, or what does that mean?
It is. It's a category, especially when you're looking at therapy. And I'm not a therapist, I am a neurocoach, but it's a designation that helps categorize. However, here's the thing that's key that I think you just leaned into. We have a tendency to diminish
Mm,
what we've been through and how valuable and important it is for us. So a part of the work that I do is shifting the story from, this is not a big deal, to it's valid and it's meant for you. It wasn't to you, it was for you. And when you can start to understand that and shift that story around, for me, it was pivotal in my life and in my clients' lives, it has been, because you begin to find value in things that didn't appear to be valuable and that were very difficult in the moment and very painful. But giving ourselves permission to actually feel the pain and lean into it causes us to be able to move through it and even to diminish it. And one of the examples I use in that is, that Disney movie Monsters, like
yeah.
pain felt like this huge animated monster hanging over my head, like threatening me. And, this is where, for so many of us, we want to diminish pain by going into some form of escape, whether it's drugs and alcohol, whether it's overeating, whether it's, you know, um, playing small and wasting away our lives because we don't feel that we can handle this pain. And being able to look at and stare it in the face and go, no, no, I see you, I hear you, I validate you, but I'm not going to accept that you can swallow me whole, helped me to be able to bring it into a place where I could actively heal it. And a part of that work is moving things that have been hidden away in the subconscious into the conscious mind. And there are tools that I use to help you do that so that you can, really work through things and have not just temporary symptom-based healing that you like going to a great conference. I love conferences. I
Yeah.
love motivational speeches, but you go and a week later you're like,
You're
whoa,
like,
what did they say? It was so
yes.
great. And so this is the long-term work. This is the ongoing work that stays with you so that you can actually, again, create a reality as a healed person who is living a full, abundant, prosperous, wealthy life that we are actually wired for and meant to have.
That's awesome. And I want to know, you touched on it a little bit, and if you could just speak to what you said about thoughts that are hidden way back in the subconscious. If we
Yeah.
don't realize those thoughts are there, if one doesn't realize that they're having negative subconscious thoughts, how do they know to bring it forward? How do you know it's there? I guess is my
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. It's a real, it's a really great question. And, I actually listened to your episode with the lady you had on about self-bullying.
Yes.
And what she said was absolutely correct. None of us on this planet walks away with it without experiencing this. It doesn't matter if you're the president or if you're, doing what you're doing in your everyday life. It's important to know that we're wired this way. We all deal with this, and there's value in the tools we have available. So, first tool in my success process is that awareness. And one of the bridges that you can use is simply to take a small action step that stretches you. You know, and I think, was it Eleanor Roosevelt who said, do something courageous every day? You know,
Yep.
just one small step of something that scares you a little bit, that's like brave in a positive sense, will unlock limiting beliefs. And they'll show up fierce because you're stepping outside of what the brain sees as the safety zone. And so that's
Mm,
important.
that's
Yeah.
cool. Are you familiar with Linda Sunshine West?
Actually, no, I'm not.
Oh, you just said something. She wrote a book about it, but she called it her year of fears. And every day
Okay.
she broke free of one fear every day for a year, and she wrote a book about it. So that when you said
That's
that, it just reminded me of that.
super
That's
powerful, right? Yeah.
yeah, that really is. So I'd
And
love to, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I was going to say that, you know, one of the things is we can start to see these limiting beliefs hidden in our subconscious and think of our subconscious as a bad thing or something is wrong with us. It's really important for you to know that's not the case. It's a beautiful, sophisticated, automated system because we think so many thoughts every day that we couldn't even raise our heads off the pillow if we didn't have this powerful system. So you and I aren't sitting here talking and going, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in,
Right.
breathe out, right? It's automated and it serves us, but it's the faulty wiring that gets in there that we want to bring forward and be able to actively remove. And that's the beauty of neuroscience and our neuroplasticity. And when that happens, our energy changes, our vibrational frequency changes, everything changes. And you actively begin to create a reality that you want to live. And that's a part of what that's where I get lit up. I'm like, hey,
Yeah,
I'm here.
you
Yeah.
glow. Like you just have a glow about you that is so it's just so comforting, and I love it. But I wanted to ask you
Thank
to
you.
go back in time a little bit, and you had mentioned your husband. I'm so sorry to hear about that.
Yeah.
Prior to that, were you in touch with this frequency that you're in now? Were you doing any of this work prior to that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. In terms of, I didn't know that I loved business and now have multiple businesses. I had no idea. And when I look back, yeah, there are things that I recognize. In school, I didn't fit in. I always beat to a different drummer.
Hmm.
And there were certain circumstances that, of course, fostered that situation in my environment, in my family, and in the church that my family attended at that time, which was really legalistic and really
Oh,
performance based. And um, so I always felt like the odd one out. I always felt like, okay, I'm weird, I'm different. And where I used to let that hold me back, now I celebrate that. I celebrate it because it's one of my greatest strengths. One of my businesses is my neurocoaching business is called Success Uniquely Yours. We each are unique, and that is a beautiful gift, right?
yeah.
We're all meant to step into our own drums, if you will.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I talk about that a lot. And just in terms of having, and you said you didn't realize it maybe at the time, but you realized something was different. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's that entrepreneurial mindset rearing its head when we were little, right? Because I was the
Yeah.
same way. I mean, I was very different. I didn't have an easy time having jobs when I was young. I just,
Yeah.
I didn't like authority very much. I still don't. I still don't. But
Yeah.
that's kind of the idea of this podcast is born or made. And are we born with that oddball uh piece, or
Yeah.
does it sort of evolve over time? And I think a lot of us have those tendencies when we were young, but they're not fostered. in
Yes.
schools or anything like that. So we don't really realize
Right.
why it is that we're a little bit different. So,
I even think, going back to that foundation of our worthiness and our identity, I mean, I don't remember ever as a kid, and I have amazing parents. I don't remember ever, them saying, hey, by the way, do you know how worthy you are? Do you know how valuable you are? And I can see that awareness growing now and parents working with their children. I'm excited about the changes that I think this is going to bring impacting our world.
mhm.
Um, because it's such an important question, right? Like, who am I? Am I valuable? And what is it dependent on? Is it
Yep.
dependent on me running a race? And so, yeah, that beating to a different drum and not being able to really to think differently. Interesting thing is, I was really surrounded by and taught an employee mindset. I
Mhm.
was, you go to school, you go get a good job, you go on to make money, and then you live your life later in your later years.
Yep.
And even my husband, who is a wonderful entrepreneur, a brilliant mind, would say, now's not the time for that. We'll do that later. Let's push and hustle now. Let's be a part of the hustle and grind culture. That time didn't come. That time didn't come.
Yeah.
We get to live now. We get to take action now so that we can be building the lives that we want to live, but also living in this present moment. Really, in reality, all we have is the present. And the reason that I bring this up is because in the context of born or made, we do carry things from our past generations. We carry things from our parents and grandparents and
Mhm.
great grandparents. So, in that way, I do believe that we enter into this world with certain tendencies or traits or genetics. And, our DNA may be predisposed to certain factors. However, with neuroplasticity, we know that we're not stuck. We're never stuck. We always have the ability to live in the present, to change the past and the future, creating our reality. And, those are I love quantum too. I'm a total science geek.
Yeah, I've been hearing about that a lot too. It's so cool. Um, I have a couple of questions, but first I want to say, um, in terms of carrying through from generations and maybe DNA predisposed. So would it be fair to say that if someone was raised in an environment that was scarcity environment
Yes.
and them, their parents before them, scarcity environment, always about, you know, can't spend money, penny pinching, would you say that it's likely that that person would have limiting beliefs about money?
Yes, definitely. And again, those are the hidden things that get wired in deep that we're not even aware of.
Right.
But you can start to recognize it by the actions you're taking because,
Yep.
our thoughts and our emotions form beliefs. From our beliefs, you're going to be making your decisions. From those decisions, you're going to take your actions. And from those actions, you're going to receive your results. So when you're not receiving the results that you want to receive, you can simply reverse engineer it. And you can go, okay, I'm not getting the result I want. What action am I taking? And write that down. What decision am I making? Write that down.
Yep.
Oh, what belief might I have that's causing me to make this decision? So you can literally start to unwire it and begin. It's another tool to begin to have awareness of what's hidden in there. And this is where it's important. It's really critical that you have a mentor and a guide, somebody who can see this process and walk you through it with the right questions, empower you, believe in you, and help you to see the possibilities before you even know they're there. And that's the part that I do that I absolutely love doing.
That's amazing. What is the difference, if there is any difference? I'm not sure if it's the same thing, but between neuroscience, neuroplasticity, and NLP. Is that
That's a
the
great
same
question.
thing? Okay.
I know that the NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, and I have not gone through that process.
Okay.
From the neuroscience perspective, neuroplasticity is simply the ability for our brains to change. So if you went back, over 100 years ago in psychology, there was this idea that the way you were born was the way you were, that you were fixed and you didn't have the ability to change. And a lot of words were spoken over children at that time and in the 20th century that, oh, you're this, you're that. And if you think about it in your own life, be aware of people who have spoken those words over you. Oh, you're this, you're that. Because you don't have to live anybody else's plan for your life. You get to live your own plan. And that's the neuroplasticity. It's our ability for our brains to, and our nervous system to flex and change, right?
Right.
And that's important. When you have that awareness, I mean, how exciting is that? That's what got me so passionate and exciting. Oh, I can remove my limiting beliefs. Are you kidding me? Where do I sign up? This is fabulous.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people might be listening and saying, there's no way. There's no way I can stop thinking, whatever.
Yeah.
Stop thinking I'm fat, or stop thinking I'm not worthy, or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting to hear from somebody that's not only gone through it, but helping other people go through it. It's really cool. And I think a lot of people, like I said earlier, will be hopeful, but still skeptical, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I understand the skepticism. And I just want to point out again in
Yeah.
regard to that, it's really about the answers that are already there in you. So let's
Yeah.
say you have the belief, I'm not enough. Well, because you have that belief, you also have the capacity to begin to believe, I am enough. And you can start to repeat that to yourself, because what we focus on grows. So if you're saying to yourself all the time, I'm not enough, you can change that and start to say, I am enough. Now, there's more to the process I
Sure.
teach than that. We
Sure.
go a lot deeper. But back to your question with, with NLP and neuroplasticity and neuroscience, we're actually literally changing our whole nervous system, and the subconscious is not just in our brain, it's in our bodies too. It's housed in our bodies. Our heart and our gut have neurons, neural networks, short and long-term memory. Some of our neurotransmitters are made in our guts. So again, going back to it's a whole being process. Even though it might, be called a neuroscience process, it affects every single part of us. And that's very important to understand. And it is using our words. Again, I'm not familiar, I haven't done the NLP process, but the voice is a major center in the brain, and beginning to say every day to myself, I am enough, is powerful and does actually begin the rewiring process.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting you say that, because the Sherry, I think, is who you were talking about, who was talking about your inner bully, or if you're the bully, self-bullying, right? Is that what you meant? Self-bullying. Yes.
Self-bullying, yeah, that's
yes.
right.
And so we were also talking about how, the brain is like a computer, and if you keep programming, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy, then that's the program it's going to run. right?
Yes.
You have to
Yeah.
override sort of, I'm paraphrasing, but basically
Yeah.
that idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and even more than overriding, Anne Marie, I would say you're actually neutralizing and erasing old neural networks. So maybe you have one running alongside I'm not enough. And, a lot of times we'll hear New Year's resolutions, 21 days, I am enough. You've been saying it every day. Or another example I'll give that's relevant. At New Year's, you may say, oh, hey, I've lost 10 pounds. It's been 3 weeks. It's been 21 days. I've got this. I'm so excited. I'm celebrating. And then in week 4 and 5, it all falls apart. Well, this is where the power of my neuroscience process really kicks in for that long-term result of creating what you desire. Because at 21 days, there is a brand new neural network of the 10 pounds lost, the old neural network of who you were with the 10 pounds. And the brain is wanting to keep you safe by protecting what's the most familiar. So when these
mm,
networks are still side by side, it's going to protect the old one because that's what it sees as safety for your automated system. And it's by continuing to do the work for an average of 67 days that this old network of carrying the 10 pounds is going to break away. It's called synaptic pruning. And this is going to strengthen into a neural highway where you are now this new person. So
that's
it's
fascinating.
it's super important. This is why I really want to lean in, have a mentor and a guide who understands the process. So you're not out there, just that's the thing about mindset work. You watch an Instagram reel or you hear your best friend tried something and you're like, oh, I'm going to try that. And it all falls apart. And you're like, that didn't work. That didn't work. No, you need a solid process that's going to take you from A to B and that is actually proven. So
Yeah.
that's what I do.
Wow. And that's almost like I've heard that it takes, I forget the amount of time, but it's on the same idea. It takes a certain amount of time to form a new habit. Is that
Yeah. Yeah.
along those same lines? Yeah.
Mhm. That's right.
Interesting. Okay. And so I really want to know, is it possible to live in this abundance, higher frequency place and still have bad habits in terms of if somebody were a smoker or if
Yeah.
somebody's a heavy drinker, or is it really to achieve that? Is it really just about mind and body and being a completely healthy place?
I love this question so much. You have no idea because it's not about Shangri-La. If it was about Shangri-La, then, everybody would be knocking down my door, mowing me over. It's about the fact that we do have these limiting beliefs wired in, and it's a journey, it's a process. But this is the exciting part. So maybe you're leaning into abundance right now and you're smoking and you know that you want to quit at some point, or it doesn't make you feel great. What I have noticed in myself and in my clients is that as we do the abundance work, that I have less desire for this
Mm,
habit over here. So it isn't an immediate change in that if I'm not focusing on that, but it tends to improve and improve. And then, okay, now I'm going to really lean into this and stay zoned in on my health. That's going to be my primary focus now. And what you'll find is your abundance will continue to elevate and you'll make significant progress and breakthrough here. But it's all happening together in differing levels, depending on what your habit is, what your
mhm.
wiring is. I'm still doing the work. I use the tools that I teach every single day because we have millions of miles of neural networks. I got a lot of work still to do, right? But it compounds. It compounds. And that's the exciting part. So, it's not like I could never do all this, the overwhelm, it's that it is exponentially changing my brain and the way it's structured and functioning. And it will do the same for yours as well.
Oh, it's just so fascinating because I know that the brain, I don't know if you ever watched Dr. Phil, but I actually was watching an episode the other day and he was talking about the brain pruning itself when you're a teenager. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to me that the brain still has that ability even as we get older.
Yeah, no matter what age we are. Honestly, my parents are still doing amazing work. I still see growth in their learning and what they bring in their 80s. So, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, do you have any brothers and sisters?
I do. Yeah, I do. I am the oldest of four, and they all live pretty close in Florida. So we're a tight-knit family, and I'm super thankful for that.
That's awesome. Are they entrepreneurs?
Actually, both of my brothers are in IT. One's an entrepreneur and one works for a very large corporation and has for many years. And my sister is an entrepreneur as well. She's got her master's in psychology. So,
Oh, cool. All right, similar. But yeah, that's great. And I'm going to tell everybody that Carol lives in Orlando. So all my Orlando friends that are listening, she's
yeah.
she's an Orlando resident, which I love. Carol, this has been
Um,
what? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the primary work that I do is global and online. I have people surrounding me from all over the world. So, and people that I work with from all over the world. So don't let location limit you in
Oh
any
yeah,
way.
no.
I
Yeah,
just want you to
especially
know that.
yeah,
Yeah.
in today's world, we can work with anybody. I love that ability that Zoom has become a verb.
Yeah, yeah. I'm down
Right?
here in southern Chile in the Andes Mountains right now. That's one of the places that I live. And that's a part of the reality that I love is being able to live in different locations around the
Yeah,
world.
that's incredible. Very, very awesome. You have a free gift for my audience, yes?
I do. I do. It's called a wealth activation, and it's the final step in the process that I teach. So it's something where you can just lean in and start to get some quick results. But then please know that you can go deeper and have that long-term ongoing result. But start there, start activating your wealth right now, no matter where you're at. If you're ready to move from 6 figures to 7 figures, which is a lot of who I work with, or from 7 figures to 8 figures, you can start to look at what's wired in and break those glass ceilings and step forward and elevate your life.
Right. I will put the link to that in the show notes. Anything new and exciting on the horizon for you?
Yes, actually there is. I'm about to do a launch for my year-long program, which I'm so excited. I love it. I have amazing testimonials, by the way, and I am working on a brand new course. So it's a self-study course that you can pick up and do at midnight and really start to understand more about how to rewire your brain. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So we'll make sure to follow you and see when those awesome things are going to happen. And so coming to the end of this, because I know have a stop we have to follow, but I do have a couple random questions that I always ask. If you've seen one of my episodes, you know that at the end of the episode, I ask just some random questions. Okay. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. So if you had the opportunity to go to space and walk on the moon, would you?
Um, that is a great question. Yeah, I think I would. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Then, if given the opportunity to have dinner with anyone, alive or dead, who would you pick?
Oh, that is an answer that changes for me depending on the context of the situation I'm in. Right
Yeah.
now, it would be with my mentor, Dan Martell. He is worth 100 million, and I love learning from him, and I would love to have dinner with him and his family. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay. And then lastly, I like to hear about morning routines because it's interesting to me how people start their day, especially successful people. So tell me, what is the first thing you do every morning?
First thing I do is my brain priming, which you'll learn in the wealth activation. It's important to do that when you're in an alpha state, and that happens when you're just waking up in the morning. So that's a key point for me to start my
Interesting.
day.
Alpha
And
state.
I do reading, and I also do journaling, and just set my day up for success. And I'm starting right now a brand new workout program. So
Oh, yay.
wish me luck on building that pattern.
Good for you. Well, Carol, it has been so wonderful having you here. I've learned a lot. I'm sure everybody did listening. So thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. Anne Marie, if it's okay, I just want to mention too, in regard to free gifts, if it's all right with you.
Yeah.
I currently am running a book club. It's free. It's with Jamie Kern Lima's book, Worthy. I don't know when this is going to air, but it's designed where you can come and go, and there are replays. So feel free to let me know if you'd like to come in. It's a good sized group, and we're on a deeper journey together of our worthiness. So
I will put information for that also in the show notes so that everyone can check it out. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Carol, and enjoy chili.
thank you. Thank you so much. It's gorgeous. Yeah, crazy gorgeous.
Awesome. And thank you everybody for listening to the Born or Made podcast, and we will see you next time.